Recording. Hey guys, how you going? Here it is, the second episode of whatever I'm calling this. I haven't actually got a name for this. It's not like Cooking with Ryan. Cooking with Ryan's got a name because that's awesome.
It's Cooking with Ryan.
Have you watched a Cooking with Ryan episode yet? Did you watch the beard red one?
I've seen it. I saw bits of it. I have to admit, I haven't sat down and checked right in yet. I'm on a no alcohol kick for 75 days, so I didn't really just want to sit there and tease myself.
But the best part about it is that the alcohol content in the bread is zero. There is no alcohol in the bread. It just used the beer.
I did think of this. I did think of it. Maybe this will be the way to work the grey zone.
Anyway, enough about me and making bread. Let's talk about this big fella here. Mate, tell us who you are, what you do, your background. You're a big dude. You've got a big, nice beard, so we like that. So take it away.
It's crucial. So my name is Nathan Bridger. I am a chiropractor and have a secondary strength and conditioning coach certificate as well. So go me. I am also the owner of North Fremantle Chiropractic. We excitingly opened up 2.5 weeks ago. What a great time to open a business that primarily involves touching people. So we've actually already closed our doors for the temporary time to make sure that everyone's looked after.
No. What you did, you had a soft opening, and your actual opening will be in whenever you're allowed to open up.
Yeah, my actual opening will be somewhere between next week and 6 to 12 months from now. We'll see. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's an exciting time. Already great to be part of the local community. Yourselves, obviously, this is how we met, through reaching out and connecting there. And I've also been running a local business initiative, just linking in with a lot of the local businesses that have also been affected and just exposing across both our sort of platforms, social media about each one. And of course, yourself were a guest on there, and a little screenshot of the big man Simon himself, which I thought was just creme de creme of that video.
That popped me big. I'm a big fan of the sneaky Simon photo popping up. That was real funny.
I was looking for a photo of him, and I'll tell you what, that I tracked him on Facey and just only get access because I didn't have friends with him yet to that profile shot, and it was already just primed and ready to party. He's
a hard man to get him on the friends request. Did you send him a friends request?
I can't even 100% confirm that I did or not. I guess we'll find out.
He's a hard man to befriend on Facebook. He likes having exclusive lists. He calls himself the puppet. He calls himself the puppet master for no reason other than he thinks it's cool. And he says, Ryan, I'm just behind you. I'm the string man in the background, and I let you do all the talking. But I'm absolutely fine with, because it means I don't have to worry about payroll and crap like that.
No, that's the dream team, isn't it? It's like, I'm really good at X, you're really good at Y. Let's just be good at everything together.
Yeah, or in my case, I'm just a little bit better than Simon at talking to people, and I can't do any of the stuff that he does, and he can do pretty much all of that stuff and still use his brain. I look at that stuff and I just go, the YouTube doesn't teach me fast enough.
Yeah, I've already, this is not doing what I needed.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel you there, mate. But you did a great job. You'd be surprised how many local businesses are just too afraid to get on the camera for 2 minutes or have mad anxiety about it. So you did an awesome job there.
I have a saying that I use with my members a lot, but the overthinkers. The overthinkers will remember this, and it's think more, do less. Sometimes you just got to do stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, it gets you in a bit of trouble.
Did you mean think less, do more when you said that?
Think less, do more, yeah. Think less, do more. Did I stuff it up again?
You reversed it. I was like, I don't see how this is relevant to the conversation.
Think less, do more. Yeah, think less, do more. Yeah, see, I've been away from the gym for 2 weeks now. I can't remember my own catchphrases.
No, it's like everything, isn't it? Sets and reps. And if you start missing your sets and reps, then things start going poorly.
Yeah, it's driving me crazy. But enough of that. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. You're a big dude. How much do you lift? What's your total?
Right. Last competition total was, you're going to get, it was 685 last time there. So 230 squat, what was it? 167 and a half bench and 272 and a half.
Was that deadlift. 165 bench?
167 and a half.
Whew.
Don't forget that. Mind you, I have since cracked the 4 plates. So I've got the 180 in the hole now. I would have had a bigger bench on that day, but I pulled a super white line fever on my third attempt and jumped straight from 170 from the 167.5. Instead of hitting 175, went straight to 180. I did what everybody tells you shouldn't do, and of course missed it. So, it was good fun. So yeah, like I've been powerlifting now, more hobby based. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest at anything, but for the last couple of years. Before that, I did a lot of CrossFit. Before that, I did a lot of strongman stuff. And then before that, I did a lot of CrossFit for many years at a more leaner body weight, we will say. But I managed to snap the old elbow snowboarding. First time, first run, first day in Hakuba in Japan. And that did not facilitate a lot of CrossFit. But
no, that would do it. All those snatches and cleans and stuff like that. Elbows...
Hard pass.
Yeah,
so that
hurts.
Facilitated a quick transfer in sport. But originally, it started everything in a more of the... I first entered the gym when I was 14 years old. Was a big unit as a kid. So I think I broke the 100 kilo mark at about 13, 14. So not a lot of muscle mass on that one, unfortunately. And then mum decided to lie about my age and get me into the gym, because at that stage, most gyms wouldn't let you in unless you're 15 years old.
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, I got in at 15, but it was only because I had a PT. But like back in those days, there weren't that many like boutique gyms like we've got nowadays. Yeah. Like it was pretty much you just go to your rec centre and that's about it.
Well, funnily enough, it was the Fremantle Leisure Centre. That was where I first started moving weights, all the way back then. So everyone was in the pool and I was in there trying to pump some iron.
Nice.
Entirely based on Men's Health magazines and whatever I saw being pushed through there. Because
if my mum wasn't smart enough to get me a PT, it's exactly what I would have been doing anyway. So like, I was quite lucky. I had personal trainers all the way up until pretty much until I moved up to Perth, but for my swimming. So I had S&C guys working on me for swimming, and then when I moved up here, who took it then? McGee the swim coach took it, and then the duck himself, Simon LeCouliard, he was like the S&C coach / swimmer. Yeah. And then it just went from there.
The old coach and player.
Yeah, the player coach role was definitely the Simon LeCouliard. So
for the big man. Yeah, so for me that's where everything sort of started. Was a pure gym bro, probably until my early 20s then with all of that, and then played rugby down at Palmyra for about 11 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have hit some dudes on some rugby field or something like that.
Oh, I was my speciality wasn't necessarily, I was a prop for 9 of those years, and then I cut a lot of weight in Colts to play number 8, because I actually discovered that I had a growth disorder which caused wedging through a bunch of my vertebrae, which was super great. And just meaning taking like the better part of the 1,400 kilo contact as a tight head prop. So if anyone who's not familiar with a scrum, the tight head prop takes the initial engagements. You're on the right-hand side of the front row. And so if you are not able to really lock that in, it's your spine that cops it. And because I wasn't able to straighten out properly from that deformity, it was not a good time.
Yeah.
So literally.
My rugby experience was in the backs because I'm obviously much better looking. So I have a lot of knowledge about rugby, but I have not a lot of knowledge about what that scrum stuff you just said about.
Right. No one does. Unless you've been in the front row, I don't think anybody does.
So you kind of know that something's going on there, and your head's supposed to be here and their head's supposed to be there, but that's about it.
You expect to see a ball pop out at some stage. So did that for years. My specialty there was going through people rather than so much the other stuff. It was solo lifting the second rowers in the line out and going through. So loved it for years, but then started tearing the body up. So started with a few AC injuries, which culminated in 13 combined AC separations between both shoulders, which finally led me to basically just stop playing in my early 20s. And I also, at the same time, I hadn't started studying. I used to actually be a wharfie on the Fremantle Port for 5 years at that stage, before I went to university to originally study sports science. And
the gateway drug, as I like to call it.
Mate, everybody's got to get in, and then you need to figure out what you're actually going to do with your life.
Yeah, sports science, the gateway drug.
Yeah. It's like, are you going to be a teacher or are you going to go elsewhere? So I made that sort of decision at that time where I didn't really understand rehabilitation or anything like that. I'd be getting some pretty poor treatment from the people there, a lot of the classic ultrasound and stuff like that, and wasn't really going anywhere.
Yeah,
so
rub it down, give it something, strap it up and go from there.
Pretty much. And so the way I ended up rehabbing it was I stopped using it. So for about 18 months, I just repeated back and legs, back and legs, back and legs every time I went to the gym. So no shoulders, no chest, classic bro split, but just
kind of hurts you on that impact as well, because you need that body armor. It's especially when you're tackling as much as that.
The simple fact is, the biggest precursor to injury is previous injury. There's no dancing around that fact, right?
Yeah.
And at that stage, it was a nickname. I did try and make a reappearance in rugby a couple of years back in Geelong. This time I had a partially torn Achilles that I kept trying to run back in on, even though I knew better. But I was playing what my friends used to call me the tampon, because I go in for one and out for four. So it was an unfortunate time. Just horrendous analogies, but classic rugby. And that was what was going on. So I'd go in. I think I'd done well at the time. Like I said, I cut a heap of weight to try and move to the back row to protect myself. But I lost all the muscle mass I had protecting the shoulders. So every time I went out, I'd hit it and just separate it again. So
a number eight's not really that protected, is it? You're still doing a lot of the hitting. You're doing the heavy ball running into the damage.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I was still a heavy number 8, so I was given even more of the ball running. So, listen, unfortunately, my time was up at that stage. It probably, now knowing what I know now, it probably didn't need to be. But hindsight's a beautiful thing. So from there, transitioned to do sports science at Murdoch. It was the first year. We were actually sharing a lot of our units with the chiropractors. I've been a senior chiropractor off and on since they discovered the issues I had in the spine, which had always really helped me. And just sort of fell in love with it and moved from there. So took me 6 years to get through, because I had to do an extra year because it's a 5-year full-time degree.
Yeah.
But I missed a couple of units due to the transfer period, but have never looked back. So I graduated 2013. I throw a fun caveat in here that I only worked in WA for about 6 months before taking a job, and I moved to South America and worked in Peru for about 15 months. Learned to speak Spanish, not very well. Definitely don't speak it very well anymore.
Hit us with a line. What's your favourite line?
Oh man, this is the worst thing. Like, I can't. This is how bad it's gotten. I have to sit here and think about it. Like, and I was like semi-fluent, so it's like, it's like the classic. I'm back into like the dos cervezas por favor. It's like, give me 2 beers, or it's like, donde está el baño? Like, where is the bathroom? Whereas back in the day, you could literally just go, like, you just paragraph. I used to be able to explain full human anatomy in Spanish for a time through there. It's just like, so cerebro, which is like your brain, and the spinal, which is your back.
You need to get back onto that, man, because that's a skill. That's important. You need to get back to that.
It's the sad truth is it's on the list. Unfortunately, it's not sitting high enough on the list. But luckily, I have now an accountability buddy who's a good friend of mine who wants to learn Spanish. So I'm hopeful that we,
cool. So you could teach him, and by doing that, you're going to relearn.
That's exactly. So, it's one of those things that we know the best way to continue to learn is to teach. So
100%. Best way to learn is to teach.
Subtle plan. If we're honest, there's never been a better time with the lack of things going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, honestly, like right about now, it's a good time to try and share as much knowledge as possible, because
100%.
What else are we going to do?
What else are we going to do?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, health professionals, we should share as much knowledge about health normally anyway. So why are we not doing it all the time?
Exactly. And it's funny, that reflection, I think there's a lot of people who in terms of health practitioners, or, across any discipline, whether it's, from an S&C coach all the way up to your GP, there's a lot of crew that's sitting there right now in panic going, oh, what do I do? Where it's really, we should just get back to what we're meant to do, which is teaching people.
Yeah, and we had that conversation the other day when I was down there. I said to you, it's like, mate, I was freaking out for a couple of days, and I think that's justified. But after I had to sit down and just took a deep breath, I realised that none of the reasons why I started this have changed.
Yeah.
In any, like, realistically, I am now more important and my purpose is greater at this time because everyone's health is in such a bad or potentially a bad situation. So, like, right now, this is what gets me up in the morning. I'm excited. I can do stuff. Like,
and I mean,
I
it's
like
the
to
prime
joke
time.
I like to joke that I'm now achieved my goal of being a fitness influencer. Well, it's exactly what I intended to do by opening 2 gyms. I wanted to be an online fitness influencer. So, like, taking it, like, at some point you got to take it and run with it. There's plenty of opportunity out there for people. I mean, people are losing jobs all the time, and that's not good. But take a breath, realize what you want to do, start a hobby. The government's printing money for people at the moment, so
well, good or bad, it's happening. And I think for you, mate, to confirm your influencer status, you just need to change your handle to Ryan Fitz. So just so everybody knows that you're about fitness.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was on the list. I've got to put fit on the end of it, or S&C, or something else. I can't just use my own name.
The blue tick is irrelevant. You just have to have fit.
Yeah, fit. That is all the education that you need.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, if we want to continue back, so left Peru.
Let's go back to Peru. What was that like?
Peru, it's hard to explain. I wouldn't tell you. It was kind of madness in the best and worst kind of ways. So some of the, like, an absolutely phenomenal experience. I basically ran my own practice in a very, like, what is actually quite a dangerous and impoverished part of the north of Lima, an area called Los Olivos. We worked 6, sometimes 7 days a week, all through the day, seeing sometimes hundreds of people a week because there were very few other options. So I was managing things there that were in some ways like to the absolute extreme of my knowledge base, just because the local medical system was so poor. I often told people it was kind of like they had all the modern toys, but a 1940s to 1960s education. So it's just rampant over prescription because you can get most of your hardcore opiates over the counter. People are self-injecting opiates. People like getting completely unnecessary surgeries left, right, and center. So it was quite an amazing experience in order to try and help this. But at the same time, there were days where you're literally just sitting there banging your head on the wall because you're wondering how big an influence can you make. Yeah,
it's hard to change culture in a lot of ways, but you got to keep just the best way to do it is kind of chipping away at it. When did you leave South America? Well, what made you leave South America? What was the reason for coming back? It sounds like a tough gig, but it sounds like something you enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, I loved it. It hit a point for the company I was working at. The classic statement, their direction and my direction were going 2 different ways. So they had unfortunately become a lot more focused on the dollar and a lot less focused on helping people. And I was no longer willing to be part of that. And I really left myself with what I felt was 2 options, which was to open my own clinic down there, which a number of my friends did, and I still am in regular contact with them. I was speaking to one of them just this morning. Or to move either back to Australia or overseas again. So I originally looked at I both applied for a job in Amsterdam and looked at re-registering in London. But that was going to forbade me from traveling. And I really wanted to experience more of South America while I was there. So I ended up making a decision, just pulled a classic reach out, messaged someone I knew in Melbourne and said, hey, I'm looking for a spot. Do you know anyone? Are you looking for someone? End up having a Skype interview in the middle of the Colombian jungle, and it was locked in. So I turned up in Melbourne, I think it was the 19th of December 2015, and started at work, I think, on the 4th of January. So it was sort of in and out, nice, quick, straight back into it. And I spent, now you're going to test me, about 2.5 years working in the Bayside area of Melbourne in an area called Middle Park.
Yeah. Well, man, that's quite crazy. So Skype interview in the jungle, how did that work? I can't believe the internet is that great in Peru.
Well, you'd think that, but I just think it might be because Australia has such poor internet.
Yeah.
I don't know if we just held to a lower standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had to go find, we're in a hostel in this sort of jungle region, had to find the best part of the hostel to try and get, like, I was like, where is the modem? And like literally logged in next to the modem, got on. It was a bit sketchy, a bit all over the place, but bless his soul, Simon, my old boss, just sort of just as excited that I had made the reach out. He had, obviously he'd asked me to do a few things before. And one of those, which I think was one of the most challenging things I've ever sat down and done, was to write down my 100 goals that I had over the next 10 years. And so he wanted to make sure that his business vision and my vision, 100 is a lot.
That's a lot of things to kind of write down on a piece of paper.
And it had to be specific too. None of this like, I want to own a house. It's like, what does the house look like? How many rooms does it have? What color is it? Where is it? Like, so you couldn't drag one thing over like 15 things, right?
Yeah.
So
I do that. It was actually. Do that. That house one is very powerful. Like you can do a lot with that. I do a lot in the mindset stuff with some of my clients. Like you go, what is your house? Where do you want to live? And they go, oh, like seriously, like in 10 years' time, where would you want to live? What lifestyle? And what kind of person are you to get you to living in that place? Like, what do you value? What do you value right now? And why would that dictate where you live? Like, you don't have a plan for 10 years in the future. You're just guessing most of the time. You're not going to it may not be exactly where you end up because obviously people change and your stuff changes. You might meet someone who has a different kind of, like the same kind of idea, but a different, a different direction slightly, and you end up slightly over here instead. But you don't have those clear visual things to look at in your head. You just get lost in the grind, I reckon. So I find it a very powerful tool, and a lot of people benefit. I find that a lot of my guys benefit a lot from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said a lot of my patients with our rehab, if you don't know the destination, you can't make the pathway, right? And of course, there's going to be deviation along it, but if we don't actually know where we're going or what's happening, it's very hard to guide things. And so it was a really good exercise. It took me, I reckon, a good month, and this was sort of happening while I was traveling to dial it all in. And then when we got going, it was something we revisited regularly. So it was a really, really great experience that even if it's just 10 things for people, but really actually, more than just, I want to, get married, or I want to have a child. It's like, how many children? What's their names? Some very in-depth stuff. So it was really a cool way to do things.
Yeah, and then see all of that stuff, like you don't know if you get there or not if you haven't got an idea of what you're looking at.
Yeah, 100%. So spent some time there. That's where I shifted my focus. I traditionally would just sort of more did general health, wellness, obviously the bit of the sport mind, and really pushed into what I would consider now being more sports chiropractic.
Yeah.
And just so, because most people obviously there's a lot of people don't even understand chiropractic as a whole, but sports chiropractic, the way I sort of define it is that as opposed to say your standard chiropractor, what I do is take into account your sport, your athletic pursuit, those kind of things when we are creating the plan, rather than just your average chiropractor would probably just be like, these are some health things that are probably good. I'm like, all right, so you are doing powerlifting, you are doing running, you're doing whatever it is. Yeah. These are the things that correspond to what you want to do in order to be healthy and minimize risk and perform at your best.
Yeah, so it was one of those things that really set you apart from some other health professionals when we first had a chat. That kind of that process, everyone is different, but sometimes the processes may be the same in some cases, but everyone is different. Yeah. So the way you apply those processes to people are going to be different for every case. So you can't just say, okay, you just need to do this more. It's it doesn't always work. You got to know, if you don't know the person, you're not going to know how they respond to that. And if you don't know what their activity is and what they mainly do with their lives, how are you supposed to, create an effective rehab plan or even just an injury prevention plan?
100%. And that's my big thing. It's one of the arguments I have quite regularly with people is that the specific case is individual, because a lot of things we do, sleeping more, eating better, drinking water, yes, these are the basics. These are the low-hanging fruit. They're going to help everyone. But if we're actually wanting to help people, again, we need to know what their goal is. Yeah. Because I can have an athlete come to me that just wants to be, generally healthy and they just want to maintain things. Beautiful. then I have some crew that are high level, like Arnold's levels, pushing for Olympics, these kind of things. Now, for most of these athletes, they're no longer focusing on health because, as I'm sure you'll agree, the elite pursuit of any kind of discipline means at some stage you have to push health to the back burner.
Yeah, it no longer becomes healthy. That's one of the big things I say a lot. Elite sport or elite activity in any regard is not healthy.
Yeah. It's now a game of injury minimization.
As a whole, you're stepping into a whole new realm of like unknown where you're going to end up like, and anyone who's been to that kind of like mental and physical level realizes, and like me and Simon are prime examples of it from swimming. Like everyone goes, oh, swimming, it's low impact. Oh, it's supposed to be so good for your joints. It's like, have you seen my knees? Have you seen my back?
Yeah.
Like they don't work anymore. This is because I was pursuing something that wasn't health. This is performance based. Things were going to break. Yeah.
Now this is why it comes back to that classic study. Now I'm going to forget the exact numbers, but it's in the movie Bigger, Stronger, Faster. They talk about, because they're talking about obviously steroids and sports and things like that. Yeah. They were asking, these are the 100 Olympic athletes. They were like, if we could guarantee you the gold medal, but you'd be dead in 5 years by taking a drug, would you take it? And over 50% said yes.
Yeah.
Now that's a mindset thing, but that's the mindset that it often takes for that kind of elite level sport.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things. Louis Simmons like it's a prime example of that. He's an absolute nutcase, but like the only way he can think is like, no, I need to be the best. I need to be the best. I need the best. Like, and all these guys are chasing these numbers. Like, they're not going to get these numbers by doing normal people things. So they don't.
Exactly.
And that's why they are all absolutely just, like, it's a complete like write-off of the body. Like, that thing doesn't work anymore.
Oh, he's like, I remember like there was a post he made, a West Side Barbell made something about like, something like only the weakest brain. Oh, the documentary, but it was like a post they made on Insta saying about like only the weak break. And then the first comment's just like...
Weak things break, strong things don't. Yeah,
and like someone's like, how's your spine, Louis?
Yeah.
Because he's had like 5 fractures through it. Again,
but he's had the stem cells, he's had every injection under the sun. And he goes like... And I love his like... Because he's very much like... He's a very intelligent man, but he's not a very intelligent man because he reads a lot of like... He does read a lot and all that, but that's not where... He's not academia kind of intelligent, but... He has tried literally everything. And he's like, how can I know if I can recommend it to someone if I haven't done it myself? So like, if you're going to say that this is going to make my athletes better, shoot into my arm, I'll prove them wrong. And if it works, whatever. Like, it's a crazy way of thinking.
Yeah. And like, I think there's some real value to that philosophy, but he takes it like anything to that different level. You know?
Yeah, man. I would definitely not take health tips from Louis Simmons.
No, that is not the game. Like lifting, potentially, health, let's not.
Yeah,
so that's something I think you have to understand so what I do now as sports chiro and strength and conditioning, that's important stuff to understand because some of it, sometimes we have to look at, research-based evidence, and then we have to put in practice-based evidence, and then we have to amalgamate it for the person in front.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the simple fact is when we look at research-based evidence, it's usually done in closed circuits with very specific populations. And the
controlled environments and all that. Like, things work in a lab really well when you've got every variable under control.
Yeah. And so when we're, using something we've learned from there for a patient or a client, I have to be able to, adapt it and have a theory as to why this might work. So I have, in my experience, they are equally important. And one of the things I often say when because I do a lot of mentoring for chiropractic students is that your degree does not qualify you in movement mastery. Just because you understand biomechanics and movement doesn't mean you actually understand how things work in real life.
Yeah.
And so you have to get both. I think it's Andrew Locke, if you know Andrew, the well-known physiotherapist.
I've heard of Andrew Locke
himself.
Yeah.
He's an interesting character. I love him, but he's an interesting character, like they all are. But he often says, if your health practitioner is telling you to stop squatting, ask them first how much they squat. And if you think the answer isn't appropriate, go find someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. You've got to have the reps under your belt, otherwise, you know, you're just teaching a textbook.
Yeah,
at the
and
end of the day.
unfortunately, textbook only covers maybe 50% of the population.
Yeah,
if that.
Especially when you're under the bar lifting the weights that you've lifted. You know, that there's a lot of very gold nugget bits of information that go into that kind of thing. I don't do powerlifting for that reason. My spine doesn't support that kind of weight on the squat anymore. My bench is pretty poor.
I'm first admit mine doesn't love it either, but it's a mixture of needing it for I enjoy it from the mental health side of thing because it allows me to just express something raw through that. And I think there's a real value to that, but there's definitely, I know that I will have limitation. Like the change in my spine, it's called Schumann's disorder, will not facilitate. Like I consider my squat to be quite low.
What was your
especially
squat?
Because I used to 230.
Oh mate, I could do that.
Yeah. So, but again, I hang around in a circle that I compare myself to them. So the guys in my weight class, watch the guy in my 125 kilo weight class squat 405 or 10 the other day. So you're always looking at the top.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. But then might have simple goals like I'd like to break the 250 mark. I think that would be a really cool accomplishment. And I would be quite happy if I never got any more than that. I would feel like I've really done something well.
Yeah, it's kind of the difference between like that powerlifting world and that more like not bar specific S&C work where all I'm looking at is percentage of body weight, you know, and stuff like 100%. That versus, you know, that absolute tonnage is a lot. Like you get any swimmer doing that kind of weight, they're probably too heavy.
Yeah. Oh, that's probably not what they need to be doing.
Yeah, you probably focus a little bit too much on strength, and their swimming is probably not where it should be.
Well, I often use the expression with a lot of my patients because they'll be like, "Are you strong?" I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm like what I call middle class strong. I'm like stronger than a lot, but compared to a lot, I'm also not that strong. So I sit in the middle echelon where I'm doing all right, but I could be better." And I think it's a nice, fun way to explain it to people because they're like, "Oh, yeah, I get it."
Yeah. You're not Eddie Hall, but you're still lifting more than most people.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's what the other reason I pursue it quite heavily is it allows me to understand things better. So I know when I do have a powerlifter that's pulling a 400 kilo deadlift, I understand what it's. Where we're going, what's going on. I've got some reps on the board because I've pulled at least 2 times my body weight for reps. All right, I see where we're at here, and then there's that social proof with those people. So. You know, if you don't experience it, it's hard to continue that learning.
Yeah. How good is it when you pull 2 times your body weight? I've done it like once back when I was weighing not a lot of weight. So my total's still very low. But like it's just that feeling. It was like, man, everything feels good when you can pull 2 times body weight, especially from the floor, like deadlift. Yeah, when you can pull 2 times body weight off the floor, you feel good. It's
a real it's such a I know, and I appreciate the expression, it's such a wank, but it's such a good such a good wank. That's not probably the right expression, but it is but it's we know that strength is directly correlated to longevity. We know there is that there. And I also know that when it comes to things like osteoporosis, osteopenia in later life, resistance base is important. So, just trying to shore that up. Now, it's not an excuse for the average powerlifter, myself included, at times where you're just like, I'm eating for performance, and really you're just eating because you love pies and you're getting a lot of weight on the body.
You keep using that excuse because, mass moves mass.
Force, mass, acceleration. I'm working on the mass.
Yeah, the mass is the important bit of that equation.
Yeah, and I think for me, this is a aside. I've got my daughter was born just over 9 months ago, and even just having her Poppy in front of me has completely changed that shift. Where now at the moment I'm focusing on bringing the body weight down and trying to maintain the strength because I changed from more of a performance to a more longevity goal. Because I want to be able to play with my daughter when she gets older, rather than blowing myself apart trying to chase goals. Yeah, that's my life now. It's more like my performance life is done. I lift now to kind of make sure that my body can stay, I can tolerate this level of pain, this is okay. I can continue that on. Any more than that will start busting me up pretty bad. Yeah. How old's your daughter? I'm just trying to figure out how long you grow that beard. Just over 9 months. Oh, so the photo I put up earlier, that is not my daughter. That's not yours? That's back in Peru. That is my good friend's little newborn. I do chiropractic pediatric work. And in that country, I did a lot of advanced training because, unfortunately, pediatric care in Peru was atrocious. So it was more just me doing like milestone check-ins and stuff like that with their son there, which was really, really cool. So there's a beautiful little photo there I still have. But yeah, it's a different man without the beard and a lot less of the mass. So I've got another one where I did, and you better believe I did a juice cleanse locally with crew for like, oh geez, I must have done like a 10-day cleanse or something like that. And I've got this photo of it, and one of my best friends who I've known since better part of 20 years now, and he didn't even think it was me in the picture. So I'm just leaned out, all gaunt, no beard. It's a special game.
People
don't recommend it.
There's some people that, you just look at when they haven't got their beard. Simon's probably the best example of this. Simon without a beard looks like, you're just like, who the hell are you? And why were you doing that to yourself for 20 years, like 25 years of your life? Like, however long it was. Like, man, Simon's much better looking with a beard.
No, that's my thing. Like, if I ever get busy enough in practice and I want to take a time away, all I need to do is find a guy roughly a similar build to me, but no beard, and just walk him in and just tell everybody he's me, but he's shaved the beard off, and everyone would have to believe it. just gonna mirror this thing out. Yeah. So I don't know where we're at now. I think we're on such a tangent there.
Drift this off. I think we're stumbling around a rabbit hole. We started talking about Louis Simmons, for God's sake, so we're definitely off track. You were talking to when when I was with you down at the gym. You were talking about you have this computer system that you use. Yeah. Tell us more about that, because that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so I've got what's called the Human Track from Valve Performance. So it's basically a 3D infrared camera and motion track technology. So we use it in the office with all our new clients and as part of our reevaluation process as well. So essentially what we do is we put in your basic characteristics, height, weight, left, right-handers, male, female, this kind of thing. You then will wear sensors on wrists and arms, which pick up motion throughout the movements. And then there's an infrared camera that's actually the same one they use for like a Microsoft Kinect, like Xbox type thing.
Yep. So
it's with the Microsoft camera. So it'll literally just map your body, pick you up in real time, and then we can record your movements. So we can do things like a squat, an overhead squat. We can do basic ranges of motion through the neck, through the shoulder. We can do sit to stand tests. We can do drop jumps. And there's a lot of new stuff coming out as we're doing it, but it allows us to get really accurate information. So this can pick up things as simple as obviously joint ranges of motion, but balance. So it can tell you where you're shifting. It tells us on average where you're putting most force through your low limbs. Yep. And it can tell us where your body's tendency is. So it can tell us where you're swaying through the shoulders, hips, during squats, these kind of things through here. And we have a secondary module that we haven't instigated yet, which is actually rehabilitation on that. So we can do a lot of later stage ACL, ankle rehabilitation for control that has a balance sensor through there. So we can map you up, get you on one leg, and have this, you have like a center of mass thing that you're able to move and keep trying to basically draw certain things with, which has been really, really good in initial rehab. So it's a really, really cool tool.
That's a real powerful tool, that is. Like, the amount of data you can get just from that, and you're like, that's stuff that you only really can kind of get at university. You've got it in clinic. That's nuts. It's
so cool. And I was really excited when I met them. It's classic. I pretty much did how I met you. I reached out to them on Instagram. I was like, "Oh, I really like your equipment. Talk to me about getting it in." And they work with they've got an interesting route. So most people with this kind of equipment start like university research and then eventually work into teams. Valve have gone the opposite. They started like Major League Baseball, basketball, NFL, AFL, and a lot of S&C, and now it's moving down into clinical. And the coolest thing about that is they have this huge and ever-growing database of, normal variation between things. Yeah. And so it allows us, and they're constantly adding things in. I was speaking to their designer just the other week, and they're looking at getting some segmental sensors to be able to get the difference between like thoracic, lumbar, and pelvic motion individually as well, which they don't have yet because it picks up the torso as a single at the moment. Yeah. So some really, really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. But it just allows, accuracy.
So where would you attach the sensors for that? That'll be you're attaching that on the, yeah.
So it'll be likely a skin sensor. So you're likely somewhere through like mid-rib and then likely somewhere over like your L3 sort of region through there. So essentially through thoracic lumbar ocean and maybe on the sacrum as well. So really, really cool and interesting. But obviously, I think they said very early preliminary sort of design. Also because it is a little bit more intrusive because then you have to get onto skin and stuff like that. So they're just figuring that out through there at the moment. But it's super cool, and it's allowing me to really provide a lot more accuracy in the rehabilitation and treatment programs that I provide, because then I can see, all right, where our side-to-side issues are.
Yeah.
Also, where looking at that upper-lower limb combinations, that classic walk or throw stance, left forward, right back. Are we seeing that go across the body, or are we seeing a general tendency towards one side? Or are we just seeing an upper body isolated issue, kind of stuff like that? So it's really, really good. But most importantly, of course, it allows us
a lot easier, isn't it?
Yeah. And it also allows us to then put an intervention in and make sure it's actually changed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can come back to it and go, all right, we did this. Where are we at? Have we missed something? Have we got it? And then we can always go, because our philosophy is always what we call like beyond pain. So, all right, we're out of pain. Are there still residual issues? And then we can now push into performance.
Yeah,
beautiful. We're out of pain. We're starting to change. Yeah. Where do we go now?
And that's the big thing, like it's you may rehab the injury, but have you fixed the problem? That's the main question. That's where a lot of guys like especially in swimming, like a lot of guys just get repeat shoulder injuries, and no matter how you may delay it because from my perspective it's prevention. It's all prevention stuff. So you may make that shoulder strong as anything, but at the end of the day, if their stroke is completely out and they've got a lever length of that, they're going to that shoulder's going to bust at some point. You only have so many reps that you can do at full lever length. So that is the issue. That is very big and very good for your client base.
Well, our game is always, I say to people, pain's the last thing to come and the first thing to go. And when it goes is actually where we dial in harder on our rehabilitation / training. Because you can now go harder. Everyone thinks that pain leaving is the signal that you stop, where it's actually where we turn the volume up. Because now
that's when you can start getting your good bit of rehab work, the actual rehab in, that initial stage rehab, what's very important. And then you can start actually implementing like a long-term rehab plan from there.
Exactly. And my favorite expression, I think I stole it, it's a basic explanation for everything. I think I stole it from Quinn Hennock, who's from clinical athlete in the US, but he's saying every injury, no matter what it is, no matter whether you're getting hit by a car or it's an overuse injury, is simply a matter of tissue capacity and tolerance, right?
Yeah.
You have this much tissue capacity, you're hit by a car, your tolerance is not up here. So as soon as we breach tissue capacity, that's when we have issues. Our first goal with any kind of treatment is to get this back to here, so you are now below tissue capacity. And then our goal for rehabilitation is to create the widest divide we can to give you as much resilience as possible, so that it's really bloody hard to get re-injured. And probably more importantly, if injuries do happen, because frankly, they do, no matter what, we can do everything perfect, shit happens, especially in powerlifting. For me, the bar's made of solid steel, man. Eventually that thing wins. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. But if you've got it's like muscle memory. If you've got a predetermined better amount of resilience, if you break that line, you more quickly return back there.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's awesome, man. I really like that muscle tolerance, or that tissue tolerance to, what was it again? Impact?
Basically tissue capacity to tolerance is what I explain. So tolerance is like repetitive strains.
That's a really good way of explaining it to people. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that one for you.
Yeah,
that one's really good.
The whole I think people underestimate teaching's actually just stealing the good stuff.
100%. Everything I do is just stolen off someone else. Let's face it, I'm not that smart.
No. But it's about how I've stolen stuff from people and used it in completely different ways, because I was like, that's a great idea, but I actually think where it works better is over here.
Yeah, it's the application of an idea that really sets people apart. Everyone can hear these ideas, but if you don't know when to apply it to the same theory, to a different thing to get a better result, that's when the real, like, that's when people show their reps, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I couldn't agree with you more on that.
Yeah. All right, just to finish off, tell us about chiropractic, man. Tell us about it.
Oh, jeez.
What is a chiropractor? What do they do? Just for anyone, I used to see a chiropractor in Bunbury. I've seen physios. Yep. Annika's an OT, so I see Annika now. Yeah. And she's real good. She looks at that whole holistic health. So it's very much like what you're talking about. It's they do the rehab, but like, why is the thing happening, and how can we make your body work better with it? I like a lot.
I think in a lot of cases, and I'll get to the chiro thing in a moment, but it's about, there's too many people who want to diagnose something and not enough people who want to figure out why it's happening.
Yeah.
Like, if all you're getting is, hey, you've got a grade 2 ligament strain on your anterior talofibular ligament. Oh, yep, sweet. Why? And then what are we going to do about it? Like, because otherwise, diagnosis, the sad truth of it is, it can become prison. And I've seen it with countless people that have walked through my door where they have been told they have X, Y, and Z. So a classic one is like something like a scoliosis. They get told they got scoliosis. This is literally a sideways curve of greater than 10 degrees. It is super common. In some cases, it is a really important thing. If you're getting diagnosed as an adult, it's not irrelevant, because of course any change in structure is going to change function. But it's not the death sentence people treat it like. They go home and they make, like, it's like their new god, and they lay down on the altar of scoliosis and tell you how they can't do anything. And then unfortunately, I mean, I've lost people because they walk in, they're like, I've got this. And I was like, oh, cool, I've got one too. I've got an 18-degree lumbar scoliosis. I've got successive compression fractures through my mid-back, combined 13 shoulder separations, elbow that doesn't fully straighten, finger that doesn't fully extend because I got set on fire in 2013 in a barbecue explosion and had skin cell therapy and lost all the skin in my arm, which is pretty good. If I often laugh with most of my patients that if the way I learned to be good at rehabilitation is by going and doing the thing. So there's no better way to get invested than to do it yourself. But trail there. So understanding like you said, that holistic, that whole health. And I hate to admit it because I really, I get a little bit triggered by the word holistic these days because it's been used really inappropriately by a lot of people. Yeah. It's like functional, I'm sure that you love.
The functional fitness. Yeah.
Oh,
explain to me what is functional fitness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is my favorite. On another tangent.
Yeah. Before I go, I'm going to stop. So chiropractic, our main focus for me as a chiropractor is focusing on I'll use a big word here, neuromuscular skeletal system. So we work on the muscles, the neurology of that muscle system, and then the skeleton through there. So my focus for anybody working through my door is to find out how the body, what's wrong. If there's a problem with the body, what's wrong? How do we fix it? And how do we keep it working well? Very, very simple process for me through there. So there's often that confusion with people like, do I see a chiro? Do I see a physio? Do I see an OT?
Yeah.
The simple truth, in my opinion, is we actually see all of them. Now, I know I'm first to admit that financially that may not be an option for a lot of people.
Yep.
But the honest truth is we all work best together rather than apart. So my main focus in my office is the rehabilitation side, and I do what I would call more heavier manual body work. So I do manual adjustments and manipulations, mobilization work, heavy release, soft tissue work, and things like that. Whereas I might refer to colleagues of mine, local physios that'll do more, or S&C coaches like yourself who might need to do more controlled gym-based, say ACL rehabilitation, stuff like that, or an OT for similar things like that. Dry needling, all these kind of things. Or I might refer to a myotherapist or a remedial massage if they need deeper, more prolonged soft tissue work.
Yeah, exactly, man. The system works so much better when the health professionals realize that the system only works when everyone works together. The amount of people that try and do too much is
when you put people in front of your own good. So I'm the first to admit, and it's always been my philosophy, that no matter where I am at, whether it's right now, I've got my doors closed, so I've got no money coming in right now. I'm still offering all my current patients free telehealth because I want to help them through this as much as I am able to do. I'm not going to charge because they put their trust in me. Yeah. If even if it puts me in a bad position, I will always either send out or reduce frequency of care if that's what the person needs, because that's what they need. And I think if we all came to that, if we all just listen, it's that classic, like, your ocean should be wide in what you know and understand and do, but it should be deep in how well you understand it. And just trying to learn more techniques, more things like that doesn't make you necessarily a better practitioner, because you're limiting another perspective by not going, hey, you know, that person down the road is actually already really good at this. Why don't we just work together to get the best result for someone?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we just build a relationship with someone else down the road who specializes in that exact field instead of trying to learn someone else's field? Like, it's something that makes no sense to me. I'm always like, I'm never going to diagnose someone. I'm not that smart. I don't know any of that crap. But, you know, like, once they tell me what the problem is and what do I need to do, we're on. Like, that programming side, like building that program out from there, that's it. Alrighty, man. I think that's a very good place to leave it, unless you got something else to add.
No, I was just going to literally confer with exactly what you said. Like, if someone comes to me and wants to get better at swimming, I'm sending them to you, right? Like,
you send them to you don't send them to me. You send them to a swimming coach.
Swimming coach. Like, I mean, but like, I understand that someone actually I understand biomechanics, sure, but I am not a great swimmer and I'm not a swim coach. I'm going to send to someone who is. So it's about playing in your, you know, staying in your lane and knowing when to tell someone to turn off.
Yep, exactly right, man. And with that, I think that is a perfect time to leave it in a sense of great working together as a team. So I hope everyone who will be watching this is going to enjoy it, because I think it's great, and we'll definitely try and get you back on, because we got heaps more that we could talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah. We didn't even get into home rehab.
This video over an hour long, I think we need to cut it there.
No, absolutely, I agree.
But yeah, like, guys, if you've got any questions, comment below, comment in the support group, flick him a message. What's your social medias, mate?
So we're very simple. We are North Fremantle Chiropractic, both on Facebook, both on Instagram. And if you want to follow my one personally, I'm not as active there anymore. It's Dr. Nathan Bridger. Yep, not a real doctor, but I'm sticking with it. There is some real cool exercise stuff there that I did. Hey, I've got the brackets chiropractor, so I'm legal. But yeah, like, guys, please, like Ryan said, anytime. I'm happy for anyone at any time to slide in the DMs and ask questions, and I will do everything in my power, where appropriate, to give you the right answer. There is no issue there. I'm always happy to help.
Yep. With that, guys, stay strong, stay safe, stay connected, be formidable.